Hello, my friends. Rob Roselli coming to you once again on the Not Fox News Network. Today being Tuesday, March 21st, 2017. And again, the website boxofsunglasses.com. That's one word. Twitter at Rob Roselli. Facebook Rob Roselli1. Email info at boxofsunglasses.com. And the last several shows we went through various topics. One of them was describing this so-called Dr. Gosnell in Philadelphia. Okay, it was about 5 years ago. The case came up, and he was performing abortions illegally. Okay, he had unqualified staff giving out anesthesia to people. At least 2 women were literally killed by this man. Poor minority women. Okay, the social justice warriors somehow missed that one. Okay, but this guy was pretty much a literal hack, a literal hatchet man. Okay, killing babies after they're born, storing their feet in mason jars, cutting their spines after they're alive. Babies were born and thrown into toilets. Okay, he did something, an experimental procedure called a razor blade abortion or something along those lines. This was happening in America, okay, and it was not reported. WorldNet Daily was the only website, national level website, that bothered to report on this case. Okay, but this is an American Holocaust. All right, and speaking of which, the Un-American Genocidal Complex available on my website, and I cover the origins of this industry, so-called, this women's right to choose. It's all documented right here in the Un-American Genocidal Complex. Okay, it starts with Darwinism, floats right into the American eugenics movement, right to the production of Adolf Hitler, philosophically, industrial, economically, right here in the United States. Okay, goes right through the Nazis and goes right on to the modern eugenics movement / modern environmental movement, which is nothing but a thinly veiled human sacrifice to Baal and his wife Gaia, or Diana, or Ashtaroth, or Ashera, or Isis, or Diana, or whatever female name you want to apply here. Okay, that's just the long and the short of it. Okay, and again, all my videos, past videos, are posted. If you go onto boxofsunglasses.com, you can see where the old YouTubes are posted with the subject lines. You can, I don't necessarily want to go off into a detailed tangent on Dr. Gosnell and the American Holocaust, known as the abortion movement, as I've already done so. Okay, not that it's not important, but it's just very interesting to me that these hack college professors, these losers, all these so-called Ivy League schools that call themselves academics and professors, will stick up for the rights of Somali immigrants and thugs and criminals and Black Lives Matters, but all of a sudden, that falls dead silent when poor women seeking an abortion are literally butchered to death in a so-called medical clinic in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, named after the only purely good churches in the book of Revelation, by the way. That's in Philadelphia. So how ironic is that? One of the most evil cases. Okay, again, not that really indistinguishable from what a lot of the most horrendous experiments that the Nazis were doing, okay, happening right here in America. Okay, so how ironic is that? This is kind of segue into tonight's subject, the end times as described in Matthew 24, and of course the book of Revelation. But just interesting that the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, named after the church in the book of Revelation. Okay, of the 7 churches that are named in the book of Revelation, Philadelphia was the only one that was really found without fault. Okay, so really, in reality, what Philadelphia is, and in America, the whore of Babylon, or Mystery Babylon, have no doubt. is really the church of Laodicea. So that's a bit of biblical irony for those that are up on, are read up on such things. Of course, in Pennsylvania, named after William Penn, a Quaker, one of the founding fathers, and when this really was a Christian nation way back when. But be that as it may, it's just what really, what I find particularly nauseating, if that's not nauseating enough, and according to some sources, I mean, these body parts are turning up in cosmetics, diet, soft drinks, okay, vaccines, in the food supply. I can't say whether that's true or not, but I have no reason to doubt it, and I know for a fact there was a case out in Oregon, out in the left coast, okay, you know, the eco-wackos and the genocidal maniacs that in California, okay, they'll bend over backwards to protect a tortoise, but have no problem with, you know, ripping a baby out of its mother's womb and killing it and calling it a women's right. Those insane maniacs out in California. But just to the north is Oregon, a state which the Californians have migrated to and basically ruined. But anyway, they have something, you know, they were burning aborted babies for clean energy. Okay. Now think about what God's up there, what he's thinking right now. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about, some of these chapters in the Bible. Okay, so it's time, you know, no more of this, you know, comic book Christianity, Joel Osteen, this band playing Joel Osteen, Rick Warren, teeny bopper crap that passes for Christianity in America today. This is serious, okay? So I don't know if anybody's listening or anybody's going to listen, okay? But if you come across this video somehow, think it's not entertaining, okay? It's not fun. I don't really want to be here doing this. To talk about this stuff and read about it makes me want to puke, okay? But be that as it may, this information must be disseminated because I don't know how much time we really do have here in these late great United States. Okay, we are a despicable nation. We're not a chosen. We're not an exceptional people. Okay, I heard this nonsense. Okay, John Hagee, you know, this Mr. Israel, Mr. Big Preacher. Okay, talking about how America is the exceptional people and we must stand up with Israel, and what an imbecile. Okay, along with a lot of these so-called preachers and experts. All right. Now look, I mean, you know, give credit where it's due. I mean, they may cover things, you know, what's going on with the so-called gay rights movement, okay, which is really nothing but an attack on marriage and the institution of the family, you know, and the gay people are being used as a battering ram, okay, just like the blacks, okay. The rich, white, uber capitalists that really run this world, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump, they don't care. Okay, their intent is to use certain minority groups and certain groups to divide and conquer the rest of the world. It's just that simple. Okay, but have no doubt, in the aggregate, we are a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, and I will submit that we are in fact worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. Well, how can I say that? Okay, now just to back up, I mean, if you go back, I think it's Genesis, I don't remember the exact chapter, 18. Sodom and Gomorrah were basically wiped off the face of the earth with divine vengeance. Okay, they were destroyed by a hailstorm. Okay, a divine hailstorm. They were literally burned to the ground. Okay. If you fast forward to Matthew 11, and Jesus is going off on the Pharisees, and he says, "Woe unto you, Bethsaida, Capernaum, Chorazin." Okay, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, "If the miracles that have been done to you or for you had been done in Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes." So it'll be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for you. Okay? Now that's Matthew chapter 11. All right? And he's talking to the Jewish, God's chosen people, the Israel. We got to stand with Israel. So he's telling the Jews, okay, who would crucify him sometime later, the chosen people. He's saying you're worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? Now, I don't know how you sugarcoat that. I don't know how these so-called biblical experts miss this. Okay, we're going to read another chapter out of the book of Hosea here in a minute. It's just one chapter, okay, to kind of tie a lot of this stuff together. Then we get to Matthew 24. Okay, but I don't know how many of these so-called, these imbeciles who sell millions of books and collect millions of dollars and send it to Israel, God's chosen people. I don't know how you miss that by accident. Okay, I have to believe, and I don't want to go off on this tangent, but I have to believe a lot of these guys and women, just a bunch of con artists. Okay. All right. The language is plain, and it's very important. Okay, and just to reemphasize my 3 points on this show. One is the Bible is the Word of God, infallible, without error. Take it or leave it. Okay, I'm not the religion of peace. I'm not gonna chop your head off. I'm not gonna force you to pay a tax. I'm not gonna force you into a life of slavery. If you don't believe it, walk. At your own peril, but walk. Okay. Number 2 is Israel, as I've just been saying, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. Israel, national Israel, is not God's chosen people. Okay, yes, they were regathered in 1948, and we're going to go over that, and it was a divine miracle, and we're going to read about that if we have the time. But overall, from the crucifixion of Jesus, when he right before he said, you call them sons of the devil, and how can they escape being condemned to hell? And may you never, talking about the fig tree, which represents national Israel, may you never bear fruit again. I mean, I don't know how you misinterpret that consciously, misinterpret that kind of language. But be that as it may, and of course, it all segues. So if Israel is not really the focal point of biblical prophecy, and it is, but if you're in the United States right now, you needn't worry about Israel. You got a hell of a lot to worry about yourself. Okay, this nation as a whole has a lot to worry about, and there's no doubt that it is the mystery Babylon of Revelation 17 and 18, without a doubt. Okay, I've heard other candidates, Saudi Arabia, this Erdogan over in Turkey is the Antichrist, and this person and that person. You can't broach the subjects. You can't talk about the things we're going to talk about tonight and have been talking about and we'll talk about in the future and come to any other conclusion. Okay? To me, it's literally impossible. Everything keeps pointing back to the United States. Okay, I don't care what these imbeciles say about Israel and God's chosen people. And all right, so that's the 3 points. The Bible is true. Israel is not God's chosen people, and the United States is the mystery Babylon of Revelation. Okay, now we're really kind of all the nonsense going on in the world. Okay, you got this Muslim. Let's just call it what it is, an invasion of Europe. And I'm not 100% blaming the Muslims, by the way. Of course, I don't agree with their religion of peace, but who the hell are we in the United States, the exceptional people, starting all these, we lied about all these wars, destabilized all these Middle Eastern countries, most notably Iraq, Libya, and now we're doing the same thing in Syria. And first of the drone strikes, Yemen, Pakistan, all these nations, okay? Can you think of a better way to piss a lot of people off? Kill their families, destroy their villages, all in the name of this ubiquitous this mysterious war on terror brought to us by the so-called conservative, that skull and bones sellout, that piece of crap George Bush and his piece of crap family. Okay, and if that sounds too harsh, then so be it. Okay, from the original skull and bones granddaddy Prescott, working with the Nazi-supporting Brown Brothers Harriman, along with the rest of the un-American genocidal complex, to, Junior, okay, Mr. Gulf War I, okay, who lied about getting us into the war in the first Gulf War. Remember, Saddam Hussein was, ripping babies off incubators, and that was supposed to get us all jazzed up for, for the first Gulf War. And meanwhile, we had this guy Gosnell down in Philadelphia chopping the feet off babies and putting them in mason jars and snipping the spines of live babies and killing poor minority women. All right, so we got that load of crap. Then we got, little baby Junior, with the weapons of mass destruction, going there and destabilizing Iraq. Then Libya with, Hillary Clinton, modern day Queen Jezebel. And then Barry Obama, Pharaoh Barry, the image of the beast, going in and trying to start World War III over Syria, these nations we have no business being in. So we have induced this religion of peace invasion of Europe, okay? But just think about that, okay? As we move forward here, we're creating our own demise, okay? I have read, I don't want to go off on that right now. It's really hard to keep this show tight, so you have to forgive me, but I believe this is all an act, okay? Remember William Shakespeare, okay? Francis Bacon was the real William Shakespeare, by the way. That's covered on my website too, boxofsunglasses.com, under the Robert Christian tab. But anyway, William Shakespeare, a.k.a. Francis Bacon, what was his famous saying? I think it was Hamlet, I don't know, whichever play it was. All the world is a stage and we are its actors. And that's exactly what this all is. It's an act. It's a show. Okay. It's a joke. Okay. But where it's self-created. And there's no other logical conclusion you can come to than what's running the world right now is the un-American genocidal complex. Okay, these genocidal maniacs, these psychopaths with the faces of like the Bush family, the Clinton family, the Rockefellers. Well, David Rockefeller, 101 years old, just passed away this week. I hope that guy enjoyed his time on Earth. The descendant of the the Rockefeller clan. Okay, along with J.P. Morgan and Carnegie and the rest of the Federal Reserve crew, were just singularly responsible for the destruction of financing the destruction through the colleges, the tax-exempt foundations, and the Carnegie Endowment. And you're seeing the physical result of all that, of 100 years of bashing America and bashing God and bashing the family and calling for anarchy and all kinds of stuff. You're seeing a physical manifestation of that literally in the streets today in March 2017. Okay, but anyway, be that as it may, David Rockefeller, I hope he enjoyed his time on Earth, because he's going to have an eternity to think about it. Okay, and I've discussed, very simply what hell really is on this show. It's all over the Bible. Okay, it's not a place of physical torment and pitchforks and flames. It's a place where the dead people like David Rockefeller are going to go and spend eternity by themselves. Okay, with nothing to think about except their own lives. Okay, because if you read a proper reading of the Bible, Revelation 14, the smoke of their torment shall arise forever and ever. Jeremiah 23, God says he will utterly forget you. Okay, but your torment, the flame, will not be forgotten. So is that a contradiction? No. What it means is you're going to have this wrath of God. Okay, we'll get into this in Matthew 24 here in a minute, when he talks about tribulation in Matthew 24. Okay, but God says, I will utterly forget you. But then he goes on to say the flame will not be forgotten. So the only way that works is if God does forget about you, okay, forget about trying to save you, send you to a place where you want to go, you don't believe in him or you believe in yourself, All right. And you're going to have your 5 months of torment as spelled out in Revelation 9, and that's going to be it. Okay. Philippians chapter 2, every knee shall bow. Okay. People are going to know that God exists and he's real, the evolutionists, the American Civil Liberties Union, David Rockefeller, all these people. Okay. Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Bill Nye, the science guy, Carl Sagan. Okay. Charles Darwin. By the way, a lot of these characters are accounted for in this book. Pleased to meet you. Okay, also available on my site, boxofsunglasses.com. Okay, but let's just go in there real quick, and let's just read. Let me call it up here real quick, and I'll read it direct, right out of the book of the end of this is the end of Jeremiah 23. Okay, therefore, behold, I will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you in the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence. And I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you, and a perpetual shame which will not be forgotten. So the average imbecile, okay, that thinks they're smarty pants, the Bible contradicts itself, that's a contradiction, but no, it's not. The way that works is God's going to forget you. He's going to toss you into everlasting darkness. I mean, eternal darkness. And that's going to be it. So the only thing you're going to remember is your life and your last 5 months on earth. Okay, the wrath of God, talk about in the sixth seal in Revelation 9. And that's going to be it. Okay, because remember, Matthew 12, the Pharisees, again, God's chosen people, they ask Jesus, Master, just give us a sign. We'll seek a sign for you. But keep in mind, Jesus was healing blind people, and all these guys were doing was giving him a hard time and busting his chops about, healing on the Sabbath day and all this other nonsense. Okay, and just picking them apart. He says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, but none shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. Okay. So for 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah was in the belly of the beast, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the earth, or in the heart of the earth. Now, he's calling them a wicked and adulterous generation. Okay. They're seeking after a sign. Okay. And Jesus is saying, no sign's going to be given to you except the prophet. Now, what did Jonah say? He went to Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, one of the most evil empires in world history, the most ruthless. Okay, the Assyrian Empire. He said, you've got 40 days to repent, or God's going to come down here and give you basically this Sodom and Gomorrah treatment. And they repented. Okay. The people of Nineveh, at least for a time, Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, repented. All right. So Jesus is basically saying, you have a certain amount of time to repent, or it's eternal. This time it's eternal fire. Okay, because the kingdom of God, Jesus calls himself the kingdom of God. Okay, remember right before that in Matthew 12, he says, if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, know that the kingdom of heaven has come upon you. So he's saying, this is it. I'm it. If you believe in me, you don't believe in me, you're done. It's eternal fire time. Okay, the wrath of God time, which is the real conclusion of the book of Revelation, and not this stupid, 7-year tribulation, and in a rapture and a 7-year tribulation, and the Jewish people will be, the first of Christians in John Hagee's church will be, raptured out of here, and then 1,200, whatever it is, days later or 7 years later, then the Jews will be raptured out, and then you can have a 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ, and all this nonsense. It doesn't work like that. Okay. But anyway, so that's just, I don't really go off on that tangent, but that's just basically what it is. Okay. And just again, just to stay on that subject for just a little bit more, I'm kind of going off here a little bit in Mark. I think it's chapter 9. Okay, now Jesus says this twice. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having two hands go into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. Okay. Now I just got done saying that in Revelation 14 it says the smoke of their torment shall arise forever and ever. Now, smoke obviously means, all right, the fire's over. I mean, it's just smoke that's left. So what that means is these people will be tormented. Okay, and again, I believe this is described in Revelation 9. That's a multiple layered prophecy there in Revelation 9. But at the end of days, okay, when the wrath of God, not the tribulation, the wrath of God comes, these people are going to get it for 5 months. They're going to get their king, Apollo or Apollyon or Osiris, which is the king of the bottomless pit. They're going to get him for 5 months. Okay. And that's going to be it. Then God's going to come down and just end the whole thing and burn the whole thing into a lake of fire. Okay. In reality, as we know, it will dissolve and be gone. But these people, I'm talking about the most evil people in the history of the world. A lot of them just so happen to reside right here in the United States. Hillary Clinton, George Bush, skull and bones, devil worshiper. Okay, American Illuminati. Remember, the American Illuminati, skull and bones, these things, the Georgia Guidestones, Robert Christian. Okay, I want to go off on that all right now. But those are the most evil people in the history of the world. Okay. Hitler was a subset, was subservient to these people. Hitler's not an antichrist. All right, he's in the spirit of antichrist, but I've heard people call Hitler an antichrist. How could it be an antichrist or the antichrist? He's got people over him. If he was created in the United States by the Rothschild, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Bush, Harriman complex, how could he be the Antichrist? There's people that put him where he is, that gave him his ideas and his money. No, it's much bigger than Hitler. Okay? But just getting back. Okay? When his wrath is over, the only thing you're going to be left with, these people are going to be left with, the only way this works, God's going to forget them, but they're going to be alive forever with nothing to think about except their last 5 months on earth and then however they live their lives forever. Locked in eternal darkness somewhere with no one to talk to, nothing to do except think about their lives on earth. Okay, so all the trillions of dollars that David Rockefeller and his family pilfered, and we're feeling the effects of that. We're going to feel the effects of that very soon here when the economy collapses under the scam Federal Reserve System. What's $1 trillion going to mean to David Rockefeller? Where's he going to spend it? What's he going to do? What's Richard Dawkins? Okay, spent his whole life saying God doesn't exist and the God delusion, and his sidekick Christopher Hitchens. Again, they're going to get what they want. Do you think the Earth, the universe created itself out of nothing and just exploded into existence? All right, dude. You're going to get what you want. You're going to have eternity to figure it out. But anyway, that's a tangent right now. We're supposed to get to Matthew 24, but let's just take a detour here. Just build a little foundation here. Let's read in the book of Hosea. Okay, this is the book of Hosea, chapter 9. Now, if this sounds to you like, the exceptional people or God's chosen people of national Israel, I mean, this language right here, and this is just one chapter of the Old Testament. All right, again, I don't know how you misinterpret this stuff. Rejoice not, O Israel, for joy, as other people, for that has gone a whoring from thy God. Thou hast loved a reward upon every corn floor. The new floor and winepress shall not feed them, and the new wine shall fail in her. That's just the first 2 verses, okay? What will you do in a solemn day and in the feast day of the Lord? For lo, they are gone because of destruction. Egypt shall gather them up. Memphis shall bury them. The pleasant places for their silver, nettles shall possess them. Thorns shall be in their tabernacles. The days of visitation are come. The days of recompense are come. Israel shall know it. The prophet is a fool, the spiritual man is mad. The multitude of thine iniquity and thy great hatred, they have deeply corrupted themselves. Therefore he will remember their iniquity, and he will visit their sins. Okay. As for Ephraim, okay, which is the 10 northern tribes of Israel, basically, their glory shall fly away like a bird from the birth and from the womb and from the conception. Though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them, that there shall not be a man left. Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them. Okay. I don't know how you misinterpret that. Okay. And it gets better here. Here's the last several verses of Hosea chapter 9. Give them, O Lord, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. Now think about that one for a second. Okay, now talk about a miscarrying womb. Talk about an abortion. So here we are with abortion in this nation, 50 million plus. Okay, many of them born alive, as in the case of so-called Dr. Gosnell, killed after birth, tortured, starved to death, literally butchered, literally brains sucked out, limbs cut off. Okay, after they're born, spines snipped, necks broken. This is America. Okay. You know, the Christian nation and the exceptional people. The America that went to the war in the Gulf because Saddam Hussein was supposedly ripping babies off incubators. But this language here is interesting. Give them, O Lord, what will thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breast. That sounds a lot like, I think it's Luke chapter 23, okay? And the women, you know, Jesus' mother and Mary Magdalene and the other women, you know, the males, the men, so-called men, the apostles had already skipped town, Peter and the rest of them. All right, so the women were following him as he was going to get crucified. And he says, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves, for the days are coming. Okay, now this is important. For the days are coming when they will say, blessed are the wombs that are barren and the paps that never gave suck. For if he had done these things in the green, what will he do in the dry? Okay, that's Luke 23. And that ties into this language here in Matthew 23. Excuse me. Okay, I'm in Luke 23 and Hosea 9. We're going to tie it into Matthew 24 here in a second. All right. But don't think for a moment that this modern day child sacrifice in this formerly Christian nation known as the United States, that this was not on God's mind. Okay, from the beginning, from before time. Because remember, Revelation 13, you know, the Lamb of God slain from the foundation of the world. Okay, and I think it's 1 Peter chapter 1. It says, you know, Jesus was sacrificed before the world began, but was manifest in these end times for you. So in other words, a lot of the stuff in the Bible, a lot of the stuff in the so-called reality, we're on some kind of tape delay. Okay, living on this earth. And I don't fully understand it. I don't claim to fully understand it, but if you a clear reading of the language of the Bible, that's what it's saying. Okay. So give them, O Lord, what will thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breast. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them. You know, from there I hated them. I mean, I don't know how you misinterpret that one. For the wickedness of their doings, I will drive them out of mine house. I will love them no more. All their princes are revolters. Ephraim is smitten, their root is dried up, they shall bear no fruit, yea, though they bring forth, yet I will slay even the beloved fruit of their womb. My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. Okay, this happened right after the Romans, for the most part. You know, they took down, I think the Roman Emperor Titus was his name. Jews revolted in AD 70. He went down there with a Roman army. I don't know, Roman legion, I forget which particular details. He went down in AD 70 and basically smashed the Jewish revolters, took down the temple, which is described in Matthew 24, which has a dual meaning, by the way. Okay. And scattered them among the nations. Okay. God's chosen people. All right. I mean, the language doesn't get much more clear here, but clearly God's a little PO'd at his so-called chosen people, and it's reflected here in Hosea chapter 9. And again, this is reflected. Now, I just want to confirm. I want to say it's Luke 23, okay? And it is Luke 23, okay? And it's just verse 28. But Jesus said, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave suck. Then they shall begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and on the hills cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? Okay, so what that means, basically, that's describing a sixth seal of Revelation. So basically what that means is the sinners. Okay, what Jesus is really doing here is tying all the sin of the world, as symbolized by national Israel, his chosen people. He's tying it back to the whore of Babylon in Revelation 17, as well as all the way back to Eve in the Garden of Eden, the mother of all mankind, okay, who the occultists and the Egyptians and the New Agers and just about every pagan religion in the world, the nature worship freaks and all those people, okay, to Isis or Gaia or Diana or Artemis, Hecate, Hathor, whatever female name, goddess name you want to insert in there. Okay, that's basically what he's saying here. Okay, and I don't want to go off on that whole tangent, mythology tangent right now with Horus and Osiris and Isis. We've talked about that in the past. Okay, but anyway, that's really what's the big picture here. Okay, so when he says, you're gonna miscarry, basically you're gonna abort. I'm gonna abort you. This is all wrath of God type stuff, okay, which is, again, is different than the tribulation. There is no stupid great tribulation, okay, for those of you that are familiar or listen to biblical prophecy by these so-called experts. Okay, the tribulation started as soon as Jesus was crucified. Remember in John chapter 16, he says, in the world you will have tribulation, but have no fear, I have overcome the world. Okay, that's important, okay, because the tribulation started as soon as the Jews were being fed to lions and burned on lampposts and tortured and killed from 2,000 years ago all the way up to today in nations like North Korea and Pakistan and all over Africa, okay, where Christians are still being burned alive by the religion of peace, or chopped to pieces with machetes, or just shot in cold blood, or whatever it is, tortured. Okay, so to sit here and say that, the United States or the God's chosen people are going to enter some tribulation is it really disrespects and belittles the sacrifices that Christians, okay, living outside this cush life we have here in the United States, they've had tribulation. It has been going on for 2,000 years. Is it going to accelerate? Is it going to get a lot worse? Sure it is. Okay. And in that sense, okay, I guess we'll have an amplified or maybe a greater tribulation, but now we're getting into semantics. Okay. But be that as it may, let's just jump over to the start. Matthew 24. Now, Matthew 24 is an interesting chapter. Obviously, this is one of the most cited chapters by the so-called, prophecy experts, and it's known as the Olivet Discourse. Took place on the Mount of Olives right outside of Jerusalem. Hence the Olivet Discourse. Okay. There's a lot to say here. Okay. Let's just kind of stick on. Let's kind of jump ahead real quick, just to stick on this thought of a tribulation. Okay. It's towards the end, okay? He talks about tribulation, okay? The sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give off her light. All right, let's just go through this real quick. This is kind of in the middle. Let's just start with 24:15, okay? Just to kind of, I'm trying to figure out where to put this in context of what we're talking about. It says, when you therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, okay? No, this isn't some comic book antichrist standing up some stupid rebuilt Jerusalem temple, okay? In my mind, we've already seen the abomination of desolation. It doesn't say when it shall be or when it shall be created. It says when you shall see it, okay, which is a lot different than it actually happening. Because in my opinion, in my interpretation, the abomination of desolation has already happened. Okay, it happened when the Pharisees, God's chosen people, made a covenant with Judas, who was indwelled by Satan, to kill Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Okay. I can't think of anything more of a desolation than that event, that singular event. Okay. And I believe this language is reflected accurately in Daniel chapter 12. Okay. Because it says, from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, which I believe is Jesus being sacrificed from the foundation of the world in Revelation 13, to the abomination of desolation is set up shall be 1290 days. Now there it says, until the abomination of desolation is set up, it's constructed, it's built. Okay, so the Jews who put all their lives and fortunes and everything into the physical temple, these are the guys that Jesus chased the money changers out with whips, told them, basically get the hell out of here, you generation of vipers. And then, a couple of days later, he calls the Pharisees, the allies or the bosses of the money changers, he calls them, tells them how they can escape being condemned to hell. Okay. And then what do? They go out and they covenant with Judas, who was indwelled by Satan. If you read Gospel of John 12 and 13, okay, and they covenanted with him, the son of perdition. Okay, Jesus calls Judas the son of perdition. The same language he used to describe Satan himself, by the way. Okay, so he calls Satan and John and the apostle Judas. Okay, Judas the traitor, calls him the son of perdition. All right, so that's the abomination of desolation right there. Okay, that's my take on it. That's when it's set up. Now I want to go off onto it. What the book of Daniel chapter 12 really is saying. That's a whole other subject and go off on another night. But here it says, when you shall see the abomination of desolation, and I believe we've seen it. Okay, when Pharaoh Barry, remember that name? Okay, and that guy's still hanging around, by the way. He's not going away. He's basically a leech. All right, a societal leech. This is reflected in the parable of the wheats and the tares. Okay, and I believe that's Matthew 13. Okay, the parable of the wheats and the tares. I mean, the wheat is obviously God's chosen people. The tares or the weeds, what do except sponge off the legitimate weeds or the legitimate plants? Okay, but anyway, don't want to go off on that right now, but that's the abomination of desolation, but when you shall see it. Okay, so when Pharaoh Barry, the so-called president of Mystery Babylon, puts himself between the column of Jacob and Boaz, remember the Freemasonic columns, one representing the sun, one representing the moon, and basically calls himself the combination of the sun of the sun god Apollo or Osiris or Nimrod, and the female goddess, the whore goddess we talked about a little bit before. Remember, the one that's going to miscarry her children. the offshoot of those two, Isis and Osiris, very simply from Egyptian mythology, or Zeus and Hecate or Diana from Greek, or Artemis rather, from Greek mythology. You know, be that as it may, whichever, you know, whatever you're familiar with, but that's basically what Obama did at the 2008 Democratic National Convention. Okay, he basically said, I'm God, I'm the Son of God, standing between these Greek columns here. Okay, so we've seen it. When you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in a holy place, then let them which is in Judea flee into the mountains. Let them which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let them which is in the field turn back to take his clothes. And woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Now there's that language again that we just read about in Luke 23 and Hosea chapter 9. Okay, of course God's not going to, he's not going to eternally punish women for literally having babies. Okay, this is why I really, another group of idiots are these so-called biblical literalists. Okay, when they say the Bible needs to be taken literally. Well, if you take the Bible literally and you read a line like that, that means, well, God's going to, well, if a woman's pregnant, he's going to zap her. That's stupid. Okay, he's talking about the language of reflecting of Hosea chapter 9. He's talking about, you know, national Israel spiritually whoring itself with the Canaanites and the Moabites and the Ammonites and the cultures that surrounded them, the Egyptians. Okay, just like Eve did in the Garden of Eden with the serpent. That's what it all traces back to. That's really the language that's at play here. But pray ye that your flight not be in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. Now this great tribulation, this is the wrath of God. Okay, this is sixth seal. Okay, when the people say, well, pray to the mountains, you know, fall on us. We just read this language. Okay, you know, pray for the mountains to fall on us. You know, the great day of his wrath has come, and who shall be able to stand? Okay, so whatever Christians are left in the world will be raptured out at the last second. Okay, but when that happens, that's it. All right, there's no stupid, 7-year tribulation after that. There's no second chances. There's no time clock that starts. There's no 1260 days. There's no 3.5 days and 2 witnesses and all this idiocy that you hear about, all these misinterpretations of Revelation. The 2 witnesses are easily interpreted. I mean, it's so easy. They're the Old Testament prophets. Okay, they're the Moses, the Elijahs, the Jeremiahs, the Isaiahs of the Old Testament. The 2 witnesses. Okay, they're not Moses and Elijah, you know, reinvigorated, standing in Jerusalem, zapping people on international TV. Dummies. Okay, I don't have time to go into that right now. But the language in the Old Testament is clear as to what the world is and what the world sees. It's not the entire world. Okay, in the book of Daniel, it says Nebuchadnezzar ruled the whole world. Cyrus was in charge of the world. Well, from the Old Testament standpoint, Israel and that area of the planet was the world. Now, obviously, the Babylonian, the Persian Empire are very powerful, and they controlled a lot of the Middle East and, sections of Europe and Northern Africa, but they didn't control the whole world. Okay, but the Bible says they did, because then obviously the obvious conclusion is the world, the quote world in that instance, means the world that Israel was involved in. So in other words, it's a preview of the world of the New Testament, which really is the entire world. So again, the biblical literalists are morons. They don't know what they're talking about. And this is why you come to conclusions that are just wrong, like Moses and Elijah coming out, the 2 witnesses and being on, international TV and CNN and zapping people, and then they're killed, and people around the world send them gifts because that's stupid. Anyway, so that's again, it's hard to not to go off on tangents here. You have to forgive me, but what I was saying was just getting back to the language of Matthew 24. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Okay, now what does that mean? That means if you're running away in the winter, it means the harvest time is gone. Okay, this is reflected in again, Matthew 13. Okay, the parable of the wheats and the tares. Okay, where the wheat is harvested, obviously represents God's people. The wheat that's watered, and the tares, they're not harvested. Okay, you don't harvest tares, you don't harvest weeds. What do? You cut them off and you burn them. That's the symbology that's at play here. Okay, so when the summer's gone, that means harvest time is gone. That means the rapture and the true Christians are gone. And it's a one-time event. Okay, because then once that happens, things are so obvious. Remember Matthew 12, Jesus says clearly, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. But don't you think that would be a sign, a pretty obvious sign? Okay, once Jesus opens, once he throws his cards down, once he plays his hand, that's it. There's nothing after that. There's a 5-month great tribulation, which doesn't involve believers, which involves the non-believers, and then that's it. Then you're on to eternity. It's that simple. All right? So that's what Jesus is saying here. He's saying, pray. In other words, what he's saying, if you're trying to get away, if you're trying to hide underneath the rocks, if you're trying to hide in a deep underground military bunker, Rothschild and Soros and Bill Gates, if you think you can get away by hiding in something called a dome, and I mean that, there's something called a deep underground military bunker. If you think you can get away, George Soros, by hiding in a tunnel beneath the Denver airport, or Bill Gates, I'd say David Rockefeller, but he's dead. Okay, he's got his eternity of nothingness to look forward to, soon to be joined by his other buddies. But anyway, that's what that means. Okay, there's no more harvest time. Okay, it means you're still running around. You're trying to hide from the wrath of God. Remember, your wrath, the day of his wrath has come, and who shall be able to save us? People literally begging for the rocks to fall on them rather than face the wrath of God when that 6th seal is open in Revelation. That's what's at play here. So again, the wrath is different than the tribulation. Okay, now of course, God says that in this case he uses the word tribulation, but he says there'll be tribulation that's never happened and that will never happen again. So that equals the wrath. Okay. So I guess to conclude, what I'm saying here is don't take the Bible literally. I mean, there are literal stories, but there's a much bigger symbolic meaning behind it. Or, as we just read here, and woe to them that are with child, of them that give suck in those days. Okay, God's not gonna burn a woman in hell because she's pregnant when this all goes down. That's ridiculous. All right. So again, a lot of the language is figurative, okay? And a lot of the background, hopefully I know I skipped around, but hopefully you picked up a couple of facts. Trying to tie current events and what's going on in America or Mystery Babylon with end times events, because people know something's up. People are starting to get that sense. Okay, but you can see the economy is teetering on the brink of collapse. Okay, the wars are about to start. North Korea, China, North Korea out there trash talking. Okay, this bird flu is making a comeback. Okay, the AIDS virus is still running rampant out there. Okay, that's a whole other thing. Okay, that kind of was big news 25 years ago. I mean, who knows where that is? How many people are misdiagnosed? But anyway, the point is there's pestilence everywhere. There's a lot going down. Okay, and it's not going to wait. Events aren't going to wait. The world's not going to stop. So how Lindsay and John Hagee's, description of how end types are going to unfold can all happen. The world's not going to wait for Israel to kind of, everything to stop and Israel to get its act together and build its third temple, and so that so that some comic book antichrist can go in there and command the world and start killing Christians on international, on CNN International. Okay, it's comic book crap. All right. So I guess what I'm saying, if you're listening to this or you come across this, I don't know how many people are listening, if anybody. It's the best I can do right now, but boxofsunglasses.com. God's Simple Salvation Plan is posted on my site, as well as a lot of other information. I'll do my best to get on here Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Shows are archived. Links are on the home page. Good night and God bless.